Okay, our next deal is a video presentation only from Julie Elliott. And Julie is the rangeland management specialist, and this is going to be on how much grass will grow on your rangelands this year. GrassCast sheds light on the question. So Julie grew up riding a horse on a small ranch in Palmer Divide, northwest of, is it Limon, Colorado? I guess I got that right. She is the oldest of 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. She graduated from Colorado State University with a degree in wildlife biology and range ecology. She started with the Soil Conservation Service when it was the Soil Conservation Service as range conservationist in Colorado in 1991. She met her Denver-raised husband, Tom. They moved to Holyoke, Colorado in 2002, where they still make their home. Julie serves as a Natural Resource Conservation Service rangeland management specialist for 4 counties with nearly 2.6 million acres of rangeland. She is passionate about conserving natural resources. She is interested in helping landowners develop the knowledge, skills, tools, and confidence to strengthen their range management strategies. For nearly her 30-year career, she has organized over 84 workshops that reach over 4,700 people. She served as general co-chair of the 2020 Society of Range Management International meeting in Denver that hosted over 1,600 people. In 2021, Julie was accepted into the NRCS liaison program with the Northern Plains Climate Hub. She began creating and distributing GrassCast educational webinars and materials. She's also in her church as an organist and coordinator of children's song leaders and educational materials manager. Her family has hosted 6 foreign exchange students from Europe and South America as well. So what I'm going to do is we've got a video from Julie, and I'm going to try to get this thing going here.
Hi, I'm Julie Elliott with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. I'm a range management specialist in Northeast Colorado. I'm also serving as a liaison this year with the Northern Plains Climate Hub. I'm here to visit with you today about GrassCast, a tool that can help you anticipate drought on your rangelands if you're in the Great Plains and the Southwest. This tool was developed by USDA, several universities, and the National Drought Mitigation Center. Climate hubs were created in 2014 to help support resilient working landscapes and agriculture production in the face of weather variability. We're a network of 10 hubs across the country. As I mentioned, I'm tied to the Northern Plains Climate Hub, which is based in Fort Collins, Colorado. The climate hubs have worked closely with NRCS and several other federal agencies, weather-centered agencies, and as well as universities to get technical information into a language and format that's useful to you, the people on the ground. Here are just a few of the resources that have been created by NRCS and the hubs. The one we're interested in today, of course, is GrassCast. Grass growth is a complex process hinged on getting the right amount of moisture at the right time. Weather forecasting, as we know, is unreliable at best, and no one knows for sure how much moisture we'll get until the growing season is over. But cattle markets fall, hay markets rise, and the range can be damaged in a way that lasts for years or even decades if we wait too long to reduce forage demand in the hopes that the grass will grow. This has negative effects on the rangeland as well as the culture and the livelihoods of the people living there. Therefore, GrassCast was created to help us try to see into the future of what might be lying ahead for grass production in the coming season. GrassCast takes soils information, the plant communities growing there, and past weather information and combines it all together to create a current soil water profile. It then takes future possible temperature and precipitation scenarios, combines it with that soil water profile, and creates a total production prediction. Now, we all know forecasts aren't always correct, so GrassCast considers 3 different things that might happen. What if we have a great year and the summer precipitation is above normal. How much production might we expect then? What if, surprise, surprise, we have a near normal year? How much production might we expect then? And a situation we're all too familiar with, what if it's below normal precipitation? How much production might we expect? And presto, we have grass cast. Now don't panic, there's a lot of colors here. I'll help you take it apart here in the next few slides. For now, let's suffice it to say, these colors are saying that based on observed weather to date, plus future weather scenarios, we expect grassland productivity in your area to be some percent higher or lower than your area's 38-year average. Now, you heard me say at the beginning that grass cast is in the Southwest, and obviously much of the Southwest is missing on these maps. Don't worry, Arizona and New Mexico, we'll get to you in just a moment. Those of you on the Great Plains may be saying, hey, I'm in one of those gray squares. What happened to grass cast for me? Well, there could be a couple reasons. One is the team may not have long-term production information for your area. Another may be that the statistical relationships for the production data that they do have is really poor between the production, precipitation, plant water use. Too poor to forecast with any acceptable level of confidence. Let's go take apart the maps. We're going to start with just a base map here. On the left-hand side, we have above normal precipitation scenario. In the middle is near normal. And on the right-hand side, the dire scenario below normal precipitation. These maps were all created April 14th at the beginning of this year. We're going to look at Comanche County in Kansas. And in the black square, you can see. Let's start optimistically, above normal precipitation. We can see the color in that square appears to be mostly that medium blue. And if we look at the legend on the left-hand side, medium blue means that we expect a 15 to 30% more pounds per acre than the area's 38-year average. The middle scenario is a near normal precipitation simulation. If we had near normal precipitation in Comanche County, on April 14th, grass cast expected 5 to 15% more pounds per acre than the long-term average. On the right-hand side, the spigot shuts off. Grass cast expected there would be a 5 to 15% less pounds per acre, as correlates with the yellow coloring. Let's try again, only we'll go north this time. We'll go to Billings County, North Dakota. Again, above normal on the left, gradating down to dire consequences on the right with below normal precipitation. On the left-hand side, above normal precipitation, it's best to start on the optimistic side. We see that turquoise color again that we saw in Kansas, which correlates to 5 to 15% more pounds per acre than the area's 38-year average. The near normal precipitation simulation, however, produced an orange color, which we look at the legend tells us we're expecting 15 to 30% less pounds per acre than the long-term average. And on the right-hand side, the spigot shuts off, it's a red color inside that box, and the legend tells us red correlates to 30% less pounds per acre or worse. Well, what if I have a place somewhere here and I'd like to get a more detailed prescription? Is there any idea or a prediction? Is there any idea, can I get closer than that general county? And yes, you can. We can get a more precise estimate. If you click on the zoomable tab on the website, those three maps will pull up again, but they're a little hazier color, and it's the same scale with above normal precipitation on the left, gradating down to below normal precipitation on the right. You can use the plus or minus signs to zoom in on the map. Use your cursor to drag the map around so you're zooming in the right area. You can also use the magnifying glass and type in the county and state of it you're interested in. Just beware that it's going to automatically zoom to the geographical center of the county, and that may or may not be what you're interested in. The maps are created on a 6 mile by 6 mile grid. So you zoom into the grid that seems closest to you and click on it. A little pop-up box will show up. You pull the bar down on the right-hand side to get the more details for that grid. So starting on the left, the optimistic side, on April 14th, GrassCast predicted for this grid that they expected the 8% more forage production, grassland production, than the long-term average if we had above average precipitation. In the middle, the prediction is 17% less total production than the long-term average. And on the right-hand side, if the spigot shuts off, the prediction was for 40% less than the area's long-term average. Arizona and New Mexico, as I mentioned, also have maps, but they're unique. They have two separate green up periods, one in the spring and one in the summer. Therefore, the GrassCast team creates two separate maps, one reflecting spring growth, which is fed by precipitation and temperatures from January to May, and then it starts over fed on precipitation and temperatures June through August. So there's a spring map that runs April through May, and then a summer map that runs June through September. Here's the maps on April 14th. Notice it says, what if precipitation through May is? So we're looking at the spring map. You can see the color coordination is the same as on the Great Plains. And poor Southwest Arizona, it didn't matter how much it rained, they were just in trouble. In the northeast corner of New Mexico, however, if there was above average precipitation, GrassCast anticipated on April 14th that for the spring growing season, there could actually be above normal, or that turquoise color of production. But then as precipitation dropped off, so did production pretty dramatically. There's lots of tools out there, so don't put all your eggs in the GrassCast basket, especially these first few maps that come through. The maps come out every 2 weeks, so watch the trend. What happens as you go through time? Pair it with the drought monitor. What does it reflect for precipitation, temperature, evaporative demand, and stream flows for the area? The color, as we know, the darker the color, the more intense the drought. Then there's VegDry. VegDry translates weather into real-time vegetative information. Green versus dry. It's a measure of the quality of vegetation out there. Then couple that with GrassCast and other tools, you have a pretty good powerhouse of information in your toolbox. But none of this replaces your own local data, your own experience. What's happened on your place in the last year, in the last month, or in the last week? How's your rotation working out? Where are you today in relation to where you expect to be this time of year? And where are you in relation to trigger dates and weather events that you expect? Just to step aside for just a moment, remember GrassCast is talking about total above ground production. It is not a grazing loss. So say, for example, if your area produces 1,000 pounds per acre in a normal or average year, we know that we need to leave half of that, or 500 pounds, on the ground to maintain the health of that rangeland plant community. That means there's 500 pounds to do something with. But we need to remember that cattle are out there, they're trampling it, defecating on it, urinating, other things that make the grass unappealing to them. And so really you should be allocating about a quarter of the total production, or in this case, 250 pounds. Say GrassCast says a 30% reduction in the production for that year. What does that mean? Well, now our 1,000 pounds is turned into 700 pounds. But if a healthy rangeland system needs 500 pounds to maintain its vigor and to keep the soil protected, in a drought year, it still needs 500 pounds. So we're going to leave 500 pounds out there. That means there's 200 pounds left to use, but some of that's still going to get trampled and defecated on and urinated on. So really, you should be only allocating about 100 pounds to your animals. 100 pounds versus 250 pounds, that's a 60% grazing loss, not the 30% GrassCast says. You need to keep that in mind. GrassCast is talking total production loss. GrassCast does not have anybody out on the ground looking down to see what's actually happening out there. As I said, it's an underestimate of grazing losses if GrassCast is predicting a loss. The accuracy is 60 to 80%, which is pretty decent, but it's sure not 100% an absolute source of what's going to happen for the future. And it is still a forecast. So don't misuse GrassCast. It is not an excuse to go driving down the road at 55 miles an hour, looking over your shoulder or looking out the window to see how things look. It's not even an excuse to drive out on your pastures when you're checking the salt and mineral and checking your water or checking the health of your livestock to just look out the window. You need to put your eyes and your feet on the ground to see and feel what's really going on out there. Here's a great example. This picture was taken the end of May. It looks pretty good out there, doesn't it? Lots of green grass, looks pretty healthy, especially if you consider that the year before ended at 50% deficit of precipitation, and it was already 30% behind at the end of May. Here's another picture looking down. It's a different view, isn't it? You can see my keys there just to the left of center of the picture. GrassCast does not know if you have desirable or undesirable vegetation out there. It doesn't know if you have weeds out there or not. Remember, GrassCast is created on 6 mile by 6 mile grids. It doesn't know if your pastures are more or less vulnerable than other pastures in that grid. It doesn't know the grazing history. It doesn't know if your vegetation blew away or dried up and died in the last year or over the winter. It doesn't know if you have 2 inches or 6 inches worth of stubble height. And it doesn't know if the rainfall on your pasture is the same that it was at the weather stations that it's using, or if you got more or less. And it certainly doesn't know if that rain soaked in, ran off, or evaporated into the air. Therefore, GrassCast should not be used as a sole source of information by federal or by private landowners for making any kind of management decisions, stocking levels, turn on or off dates. It is not a range monitoring program, and it is not documenting grazing losses. It's a prediction of total production loss. One thing's for sure, that if GrassCast shows forecasts for all 3, like it did in Southwest Arizona, there needs to be some decisions made. There is not a blanket prescription that can be made for everybody on what to do in those kinds of situations. Everybody has different circumstances. Everybody has different resources. So you've got to make your own decisions. But one thing is for sure, that when you're facing much less grass production, somehow you've got to reduce the forage demand of your operation. If you have a drought plan at home, pull it out if you haven't looked at it recently and see what you've put in there. Has your situation changed at all? Have the people in it changed? Is it all still reflective of your current situation, your capabilities, and your options? If you do not have a drought plan, please promise yourself when you get home that you'll write one. Pull the people together that are integral to your operation and talk about what are the significant dates for our weather scenarios and what are the weather triggers that will cause us to not do what we always do. And what would those things be that are different than what we always do? It might be as simple as just watching your pastures closer. We're behind on moisture. Instead of going out and checking the pasture when you fix the fence, why you'll go and check more often to just see, are we getting green up? Is the grass disappearing as it does in drought situations? It might be more involved, such as exploring markets. What are they doing? What's the hot livestock class out there? And do I have any of those that I can take to the market? Or looking for some alternative pastures. Anybody around that has some cover crops planted or that doesn't have a already leased to somebody else. It might be more drastic, like deciding what you're going to do with those hungry mouths. Are you going to ship them out somewhere? Are you going to bring in hay? Are you going to let somebody else worry about how to feed them? Whatever your decisions are, whatever your triggers are, and those significant dates, write it down. So many people I talk to, I ask them if they have a drought plan, and they say no, they're just hoping for rain next week or next month, or surely it will rain. Failing to plan is planning to fail. We've got to make a plan and we've got to write it down. Some others I've talked to have said, do you have a drought plan? And they say, yeah. Well, where do you have it? And they point to their head. You know what happens when things get dire, when we start getting worried about stuff? We quit thinking. We start reacting with that fight or flight reaction that we were given to protect us from saber-toothed tigers. If we don't have it written down, we don't have an accountability to ourselves or to others in our operation. Write it down. Make those decisions now when you're in a good position where you can think things through, when you can explore and talk with others that are significant in your operation. Don't forget to include checking in with the USDA Service Center and the climate hubs, and also talking with your university extension. There might be some programs out there that can help you, or if nothing else, there could be some technical assistance where you can have someone come in and say, yeah, I agree with your assessment, or I'm seeing something different than you are. Sometimes those programs can be as simple as just a place you can go to see who has hay for sale or who has pastures and would be willing to take on more animals. Another place to go check is the farmers.gov website. It's a new website. It has everything USDA on it, all the programs, all the deadlines, lots of information, including recovering from disasters. If this all just sounds so overwhelming to you and you can't even figure out where to start, go to the National Drought Mitigation Center. They have great resources there to help you write a drought plan. One of the really great ones is this one here, Managing Drought Risks on the Ranch. You can download it and start filling it in. There's several options there across that blue or purple header where you can read information and help you get your mind wrapped around how to write a drought plan. Some of the very valuable stuff that's on here is drought plans written by other ranchers. You can see what they're looking at and understand what kind of triggers they're looking for that you might want to incorporate in your own plan. This year, the National Drought Mitigation Center also stood up a dashboard. It's hinged on 5 key questions. You click on any one of those questions, it'll automatically navigate you to that part of the website or that page where it's talking about those questions. There's also a menu of options on the right-hand side where you can turn on and off different maps and different tools and see how they compare with each other. You might want to consider getting involved with CocoRa's. It's a voluntary, no-fee citizen science operation. It came out of Colorado, actually, after the Fort Collins flood in the 1990s. But you can see even here in the birthplace of the project, there's a lot of empty spaces, a lot of places where we don't know what's going on out there. Grasscast, the Drought Monitor, and many other weather-related applications would like to be able to look at CocoRa's and help use that data to inform our models. But we need your help. You do need to have the rain gauge that's shown there on the left-hand side. You can get it through the CocoRa's website, or you can find it in other places. Either way, it's going to cost you about $30. It's a very good rain gauge. I've had mine for over 10 years, and it still works great. The outside plastic has gotten a little cloudy, but it still holds water. Now, mine hasn't had to go through a 4-inch hailstorm. Don't know how well they'll survive that, but it is a very good, high-quality rain gauge that's just as good as they could get in a reasonable price as the co-op weather stations that the National Weather Service has. The other thing CocoRa's gives you is the opportunity to report your conditions. You can click on the appropriate radio button and then put in more information in the box down below, describing in more words what the drought or good conditions are looking like for you. If you'd like to be more involved, go to the Condition Monitoring Observer Reports and sign up there as an observer. These reports contain both current and archived maps. They still give you the opportunity to put in more information. They just prompt you for it, more information than the CocoRoss does by, for example, asking you, how long have you been there? And how often have you seen it like this before? The other thing that Seymour does for you is give you the opportunity to upload pictures. And who among us does not wish we had pictures of our rangeland sometime in the past? You do have to have ArcGIS 123 to upload these photos, but photos are worth 1,000 words. Make sure you're taking those photos about the same time of year and with about the same background so you can do an easy comparison, as shown in these two photos here. If you'd like to learn more about GrassCast, come check us out at our website, or just type GrassCast into your favorite web browser. The homepage will pop up. You can watch the introductory video, which we just updated this year to reflect our new products. Watch the videos on how to read the maps. Check out the frequently asked questions, or click on historical productivity if you would like to see what the modeled production is for your area. If you have questions about GrassCast, please let us know. Danelle Peck's the director of the Northern Plains Climate Hub, and I'm Julie Elliott. We'd love to hear what you think about GrassCast. What works well for you? What features would you like to see on the website that aren't there? And what did we not make clear? What's confusing or difficult for you? We want to make this useful to you. That's our primary goal. I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to give this presentation in person. I really looked forward to standing with you in the room and being able to have an interaction and discuss items and concerns, but it just wasn't meant to be. So I'm really sorry about that, but I'm glad that you came to my presentation, and I hope that you've enjoyed the conference.